Good morning and welcome to our whole Cranleigh Abu Dhabi community. My name is Liz Hewitt and we are coming live from Cranleigh in Abu Dhabi today on the 7th of February 2022. So I hope you and your families are all well and safe and looking forward to next week's half-term break. I know I definitely am. This talk today is brought to you as always in conjunction with our wonderful Cranleigh Community Committee, who are a group of parents who help do many things in school. I'd just like to say thank you to them for helping welcome all of our new parents this term to Abu Dhabi, all new parents to the UAE. I know they have some exciting plans coming up over the next few months, so do be looking out in the newsletter for more information on that. We truly are blessed to have them help our community to be such a warm and welcoming place. So our guest speaker today was actually the most requested repeat speaker I think we've had. And he's definitely delivered to our community before in the past, in person, and very strangely, exactly a year ago, yesterday or tomorrow, he delivered a talk to our parents, and I'm very excited to welcome him to our community again today. Dr. Hady is going to be speaking to us about the importance of self-care as a parent. Now, this is something that I am really, truly interested in myself. It is not just about, face masks and bubble bath. It's about the physical and emotional equivalent of putting your own life jacket on before you try to help your children. The last few years have not been the easiest for any of us, and particularly as a parent, we know the challenge of trying to keep your family afloat. One of my favourite sayings is you cannot pour from an empty cup, and I think that truly sums up what we believe as parents you need to do to make sure that you're taking that time to look after you as well as your family. So Dr. Hady is a doctor primarily. He's a father. He's joining us live today from the Lebanon. It is snowing outside his house, so if his internet does cut off, then we do apologise. We will just wing this. But he is primarily a pulmonary physician and sleep expert. So I'm going to say hello. Oh, and sorry, he's also a doctor at the Harley Street Medical Centre here in Abu Dhabi. So I'm just going to welcome into the call and say good morning to him. Good morning, Dr. Hady. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me today. And,
it's a pleasure.
It's amazing to be able to share a bit of information with the parents, answer their questions, and hopefully help in any sort of way go through these difficult times.
Thank you. I will say as well, we've had some questions in already. I've popped my email into my title there. So if anyone does have a question they want to send us individually while we are live, you can do, or you can pop a question or a comment. It doesn't have to be a question; it can just be a comment to let us know that you're out there, into our Facebook chat or into our YouTube comments. And we do have one of the Cranleigh Committee members backstage, just making sure that we get all of your comments. So I am going to hand over to our expert today and say that it's great to have you again with us. I have watched your last talk that you did for our community, but I know there's been others as well, and we're really pleased to have you in. So I'm going to come out of the call now, and if you want me to share your screen, then if you just pop that in, and I will be back with you very soon. Okay.
All right. I'm going to share my screen now, and then I'll go to and hopefully you're seeing me. Is it right? Everybody seeing me?
We can definitely see you, yes.
All right. So first, I apologize for no electricity in Lebanon, living in the mountains, but it has a certain nice feeling to it. So thank you again for having me today, and I hope that my talk will help some of us in going through all the hurdles, all the challenges that these bizarre times are putting us in. To be honest, this is about self-care, and it's about how to take care about ourselves, and the talk will include a couple of words on COVID, just to straighten things up, just to update everyone on what's been going on. And my own personal view, I will talk a little bit about it. Then we'll say a couple of words on self-care and what is it and why is it important, and hopefully to go through the main pillars of health, how to take care of ourselves from all points of view, and then a take-home message, and probably have all your questions answered in time. It won't take a long time. I promise you this, and here you go. So COVID, in a couple of words, is a virus that's very transmissible, and then that can lead to serious healthcare. This is the picture of a COVID of the virus. And you see these red things is where it can stick to our immune system, to our body, and go through. And the problem of COVID is that it may cause pneumonia. On the right side, you can see how the lungs are both affected versus a normal lung on the left, and that is the number one killer in COVID, which is pneumonia and respiratory failure.
And Hady, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I don't think your screen is sharing. Your PowerPoint hasn't shared. Do you just want to pop it in again?
Really? Okay, let me go then to you, and then I will. Okay, hold on for a second. Sorry about this. Okay, so here we go. Then, oh, yes. So I need to share, and now I'm sharing, hopefully, right?
Perfect. Thank you. I'll pop it into the stream.
Yes. So again, so I've gone through what we'll talk about, and this is the virus itself. Now you can see it, right?
Yes, we can. Thank you. All
right. So as you see, the COVID is serious because it may destroy the lungs. It still does that. Some people, I've been talking lately to lots of my patients who say, well, COVID became a cold. Well, we all hope it becomes a cold, and certainly it will after everybody gains their immunity. But until we have this, until we gain over it, and we're gaining big time, still we have to assume that it could be serious, and certainly it is serious for some categories of people, especially those who are immune deficient or those who are more prone to lung disease. And as you see on the right side, one of the lungs of a patient where the lungs are really affected by COVID versus a normal lung on the left side. And that's what we really need to avoid. Last year, like today, we were talking about a lockdown because we were in lockdown. Luckily, this year, everything opened up. And through these 2 years of challenge, with this lockdown being removed, still we need to address some of the questions. And one of the biggest issues and biggest questions is, should we vaccinate or not? And my view on vaccination is, really, we need to do it, and we need to do it big time, because I have seen it firsthand, the difference of a patient who gets affected with COVID, who is vaccinated versus someone who is not. And it's really, it really becomes a common cold. The confusion between why we hear some non-vaxxers, some people who do not advocate vaccine, it's due to the fact that COVID itself might affect so 60% of the patients affected by COVID can and may have a mild disease. And that leads to some people to say that if it causes mild disease, why should I vaccinate? Why should I put myself into my body some material that has not been well studied, and so on and so forth? Well, some people can have serious disease, and you never know who is serious and who is not before you get infected. I've lost a cousin maybe 2 weeks ago, 37 years old. He caught the Delta variant of COVID, and he passed away after staying 60 days in the hospital. So it is still serious, guys. Now, go for the vaccination, the vaccination that has the most effectiveness and the one that has been studied the most are the mRNA vaccines, which is the Pfizer and the Moderna one in Abu Dhabi. In Dubai, Pfizer is very available for everyone, and you need to do your two vaccines in case you were caught with you have caught COVID. Wait 2 months after the disease and then go for the vaccination. But would love to answer any questions concerning the matter. I'm not going to talk more about COVID and lockdowns and everything because it's been talked about a long time, but I really need to pass the message for everyone to vaccinate now. They're starting vaccinations above 5 years old now. Do it or not, I would wait a little bit, but I advocate for it, and it's been studied and it's good. To talk about what we're talking about today, so we're going to talk about self-care. And self-care usually is taking care about ourselves from all points of view. And if someone thinks that physically we're healthy means a lot, well, we need to incorporate all factors of health, from physical to psychological to cognitive to social to emotional. During the lockdown, we had maybe physical health, but socially we were in an island. We were detached from people, drained emotionally, psychologically, and that led to some serious diseases. During these 2 years of lockdown, people gained weight. We have studies, because I'm interested in weight gain also, and what I do. 8 kilos on average weight gain on the population, which is massive. 8 kilos is a huge number, and it happens not because we are eating more, just because we're eating more, because we're exercising less, because we emotionally eat more, because our basic metabolic rate has dropped down, and if we really do not address the issue from all its points of view, from the physical, the spiritual, the emotional, the psychological, the cognitive, the social, and the relationship aspect, and the financial one, we will be missing a lot. And the researchers have suggested that really taking care of yourself may promote positive health outcomes from health-wise to better resilience to stress management, to all kinds of you, and to all aspects of our health. The question is, how can we take care of ourselves? And hopefully I can help you in having some points of view in this delirium that's happening. And I love this image that tells us that to take care of ourselves, we have to exercise well, to eat well, and to sleep well, and it's called the health trinity. But we really need to pay attention because this is not equal. As I said in my previous one, it involves much more than this. But physically, let's talk about these three, and I would like to highlight that sleep is by far the most important one. Sleep is the most important aspect of this pyramid. And diet is important, and exercise is also important, but from decreasing order. So if we cannot manage our sleep, even if we diet well and exercise well, we will not function well. And even if we eat well, so everything is interconnected. And let me talk a couple of words about sleep. And being a sleep specialist, I can say firsthand that in the UAE, I have 20% of my patients coming complaining of one sort of a sleep problem, be it insomnia, be it waking up in the middle of the night, which has seemed to be exploding in Abu Dhabi, in the UAE. One study, we did it with the national newspaper. I've looked at the number of insomnia patients between 2018-19 versus 2020-2021, and I have a doubling of the numbers of the patients I used to see before versus now. So the lockdown, the COVID itself, the financial crisis that each and every household may have faced due to insecurity in their jobs led to a big problem of insomnia. And to tell you how sleep is important, I'm going to take you through a couple of slides. First one is very important to put perspective on things. An adult needs to sleep from 7 to 9 hours per night. Less than 7 is bad. More than 9 hours is also bad. And as we go younger, we need much more hours of sleep. I need to stress a lot on your children on how to address the sleep of your kids, if they were teenagers, 6 to 12, 3 to 5. You have the numbers. I have kids. I have 3 kids, 9, 7, and 3, and I am suffering with them into putting in these hours because of what's happening, because of the internet, because of the TV, because of how easy it is to get distracted, to not feel sleepy when a kid is in front of a screen, or an adult is in front of a screen. It's a big challenge to tell him, switch off this source of information and think about sleep and try to sleep. And it's not easy. I know you've been and you've been suffering from it, and me too. Why do we sleep less? Well, these smart devices, the physical activity outdoors that we do not exercise, we do not go outside as much as we do. And why is this important? Being outside as a kid or as an adult, doing physical activity, walking, enjoying the sun, makes us more tired, and thus better sleep. And really, a very important thing, when the body is really tired, the brain switches off. The brain needs to relax, and vice versa. If we have done nothing during the day, we come at night, it is challenging to be able to initiate sleep, because the body is not prepared for it. And for this, I'm gonna tell you about a very important aspect of sleep. Why is it important? Why sleep is important? It's important because it makes us regenerate. It makes the brain cells regenerate. Our brain cells are working 16 hours a day. They need time to relax. They need time to build up their batteries, and this is done during sleep. Number one, the brain needs to do it. Some studies on kids and adults have found direct relationship between sleep and memory, sleep and mental development in kids, sleep and how tall the kids and growth, how tall the kids are, how strong they are, sleep and immunity, sleep and you name it, every single function of the body. And that is very important. All our hormones, adults or kids, are secreted during the night, and specifically during the last part of the night, the last 2 or 3 hours of the night. And really, when we do not sleep enough time, when we do not have enough time to sleep, those hormones are affected, and those hormones are not secreted, and that leads to major metabolic, cognitive, emotional, psychological, organic affection of the lungs. Let me talk about the sleep cycle. We usually enter into the night with so as soon as the sun goes out and it becomes night, the body temperature starts going down, and before we go to sleep, the brain secretes a hormone that's called melatonin. Melatonin is secreted by one of the glands in the brain, and it's called the pineal body. Melatonin induces sleep. Now, here's the thing. melatonin will never be secreted if there's light. So if you're in front of a blue wavelength device like a computer or a telephone or a tablet, and the eyes are getting this light in, the body will never initiate the melatonin secretion. What happens? We start staying awake. And really, we need low light. We need to be reading something. A Kindle is okay, but not a phone. And once we initiate sleep, we go into the first part of the night usually is the deep sleep part, and the second part of the night is usually the dreaming part. So the body does this. The first part, it uses it to go into a deep sleep. And when I say deep sleep, for sleep doctors is different than for so when we mean deep sleep, it means very slow brain waves. The body is really not doing anything, and the brain, most importantly, is just recuperating. And then the second part of the night, the body had recuperated, the brain had recuperated the energy, the brain becomes playful, and that's when we start dreaming, and we enter into what we call the rapid eye movement stage of sleep, which is basically dreams. And this is a very important stage of our sleep because it promotes plasticity, it promotes our ability to regenerate, it anchors the memory, it improves our mental development. And imagine you sleep 5 hours, the body is still into the deep phase where it's recuperating, and then you miss on the dream phase, which is where we anchor our memory, where we improve our mental cognitive abilities. You have to wake up and start your day. You know that you're missing a lot, and that's bad. So really the 7 to 8 hours are important, and then the melatonin stops and you wake up, and then the day starts. And the tips that the challenges that I always face in my clinic is people not sleeping, and how to tell them, okay, sleep is very important. You really need to sleep. And then sometimes some of the doctors would start giving them sleeping pills, and I find that sometimes challenging, because before going into any treatment, before doing anything, the number one is really to deal with the environmental factors that we have. What we really need to do in our environment for us to sleep well. And here are some tips for some good night's sleep, to be able to go into sleep without using anything artificial like pills or anything. Number one thing is avoid electronics, because they contain this blue wavelength. And honestly, reading a book is one of the most important thing. Now, sometimes it happens to me, I'm reading a very interesting book and I cannot stop. And yes, I have to say that sometimes reading may be important, but in general, reading switches the brain for us adults, for parents, for us. It switches our brain from thinking about our daily responsibilities. It switches the brain from cycling on useless information, and more like concentrate on the story in hand. And when the brain stops all other cyclical stressing ideas and concentrates on the book in hand, the fatigue will kick in, and right away we go to sleep. So adapt this. Either read a book or a Kindle is fine, because it doesn't contain any blue wavelength, and this is the number one tip. The number two is you really need to avoid stimulants. And when I talk with some of my patients, I tell them you need to stop coffee. Oh yes, but I stop coffee at 3 p.m. or 5 p.m. I never drink anything after that. And you need to know that coffee may stay in our body for around 12 hours, 12 to 14 hours. And some people do not process coffee as others. I have seen patients, I have seen people, not patients. My brother, for example, he will drink coffee after dinner because if he doesn't drink coffee, he will not sleep. Yes, unfortunately, there are some people where coffee is not um, does not make them awake. They drink it for fun, and they do not. It doesn't affect their sleep. But when you have a problem, when you're not able to sleep, you really need to cut down coffee. You need to cut down tea in the afternoon. I'd say from noon, but sometimes when the problem is really bad and patient hasn't been sleeping for a month or two, I would ask him to really eliminate any caffeine from their diet, and more importantly, pay attention to some products that we think that we may think they do not have caffeine, but they do, like fizzy drinks, Coca-Cola, and stuff like this, Red Bull. There are some vitamin C. Vitamins should be avoided at night. No vitamins at night, and this is very important. Um, some people would sit in bed and send emails and do their work in bed, and our brain associates bed with work, and it will make it more difficult for us to be able to sleep. So you can do three things in bed: sleep, read, and share the bed with your partner. And that's the only things that we want you to do in bed, because we don't want the brain to associate it. One of the funny facts is people who live in hotel rooms, some businessmen or business women who have to live a month in a hotel room. They use the bed as their work, and even if they're working, like for example, online, they stay in bed, and these people will never be able to sleep. They will have a big trouble into sleeping and getting their sleep in a correct way. Um, the room should be dark, calm, more on the cold than the hot. So one word about the body temperature. For us to sleep, the body temperature should go down. That's why, for instance, if we go for a run just before sleeping, so the body temperature goes up, it's going to be more difficult and more challenging for us to go to sleep. Whereas if we really wind down, if the temperature of the bedroom is a bit lower, I mean 22 is fine, not 18. That like now, my bedroom is really very cold. It takes me a long time to sleep. But when it is really 2022, it's a pleasure to sleep, and it induces sleep. Actually, what I do, I would put the AC in my bedroom in Abu Dhabi for 2 hours before sleep and switch it off and try to sleep with it. No stimulants, no light, no TV in the bedrooms, and that's very important. Um, to finish about sleep, um, I have many patients in this year coming with, they can induce sleep, but then after 2 or 3 hours they'll wake up and they'll never be able to go back to sleep. And this has been increasing more and more. And usually this is one type of insomnia. We call it inability to maintain a good sleep. And honestly, it's associated with a couple of factors. It's associated with stress and depression. And patients or people who who are not able to maintain a good sleep and wake up and stay awake in the middle of the night for 2 hours should really seek medical help, because we can help treat this. This is usually due to a drop of one of the neurotransmitters in the brain, which is called serotonin. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter that puts us in a good mood and maintains a good sleep. And whenever the serotonin drops down for whatever reason, stress, anxiety, depression, responsibilities, you name it, if the serotonin dips in a bit, we end up with waking up in the middle of the night and staying for 2 hours, and then maybe dozing off at the end of the night and waking up to go to work, and that really destroys our routine. So my advice is, when you wake up in the middle of the night, don't touch your phones. Don't ask about the time. Is it time? Just put the alarm, put the phone face down, silent, no vibration. And if you happen to wake up, stay in bed, try as much as possible to decrease your activities and close your eyes. And most of the time, you'll go back to sleep. If you really cannot go back to sleep, and sometimes it becomes like, oh God, it's making me angry. But you can switch on a light and read a bit, but certainly don't go switch the news on or switch your phone, which could be a disaster. So, and if really it's a chronic thing, the treatment for this is usually an antidepressant because it improves the serotonin level and makes us sleep again in a better way. But before that, we really need to enjoy to apply all the tips that we have talked about, and try to fall asleep. Enough about sleep. I'm so sure there's going to be a lot of questions that I can answer now or later, but it's one of the biggest pillars of taking care of ourselves. To go to diet, the way we eat is very important because it improves our immunity, our growth, our mental development. And to talk a little bit about diet, I would say that in kids, you don't care about what they eat because they have the ability to process anything. But we need to make sure that they're eating enough greens and vegetables and fruits because most of the vitamins are there. We need to pay attention that they're eating meat. And for vegan parents or parents who really want to omit any meat in their diet, they need to take care about the vitamin B12 in the diet of their kids. Some people adopt a vegan diet, that's fine, but please make sure that your kid or yourself have enough vitamin B12 because vitamin B12 is very important in the development of our nerve cells, of our brain, of our immune system, of our red blood cells. Kids need carbs, they need fat. I see sometimes parents who would make their kids eat the same way as they do, and that is a bit not correct. So kids want the fat, the cholesterol in kids. Cholesterol is a molecule that is used in the development of our nervous system. Our neurological system depends on fat being in the system. Now, we have to be worried about the extremes. Eating junk food that is full of fat every day is wrong, and having a fat-free diet is also very wrong. So balanced, and don't worry, they can. I was in a school one time giving a lecture to kids, and they would say, "Oh, we love junk food. Could we eat junk food?" Yes, you could, but once a week, twice a week. But when junk food becomes the main diet, it's bad. And when we omit fat from our diet, it's also bad. As for us adults, really, it's important to balance it. The fruits and the greens should be part of our diet. They contain the vitamins, the folic acid, and they decrease the number of calories that we eat because they have less calories than sugars. Proteins are essential, especially if you are a person who does a lot of sports. And carbs are not that bad. Like some people, oh, I'm a carb-free diet. I've been dealing with overweight. I put for some patients intragastric balloons to control their weight gain, and sometimes give them medications to cut their appetite. It's doable, but I always promote a healthy diet. So a logical diet. A good diet is a sustainable diet. That's what I say. You can eat cabbage for a year and you'll lose a ton of weight. Is this sustainable? No, then it's a bad diet. I cut carbs, 0 carbs. Can you sustain it forever? No, then probably it's not a healthy thing to do. And now we have all these diets, the protein diet, the keto diet, and stuff like this. And I really, the best thing, and it's one of the most difficult things, is to be able to eat from everything, but in less calories than the usual, and so burning more than eating. Fat is not that bad if you don't have high cholesterol, if you're not somebody who is prone to do ischemic heart disease and atherosclerosis, which is the disease where cholesterol gets deposited in the arteries. If you're not that, fat is good, and sometimes it's tasty. Some people love it. And usually people look into it as in and out. It's much more complicated than this. There's our basic metabolic rate that vary. When we are on a diet, the body thinks that it is famine, so it drops down our rate of burning calories. Like, I'm sitting here doing nothing, just talking. How many calories per hour I'm burning? If it's higher than somebody else, I can eat more than that guy and still maintain my weight. Whereas if he eats as much as me, he'll gain weight. And that's why sometimes we don't understand. But you eat more than I do. How come you don't gain weight? Yes, these are people that makes us angry sometimes. Their basic metabolic rate genetically is sky high, and they can eat anything. These people will be sleeping and they'll burn more than me jogging, for example. Yes, but to go back to yourself, balance it. Just make sure that you burn as much as you eat, if even not more. And that is a dilemma that, with the availability of food on every single table, it's going to be a challenge more and more. We see more and more people that are overweight, and we need to do something about it. And promoting health in general is one of the most important things to do. And I'm so sure that each and every one of you has read a lot about the subject. Just retain, do something sustainable, seek for help if you need to, and don't go for extremes. That's very important. Exercise is something that is also very important. Extreme exercise is not good. 30 minutes, 6 times per day, according to the American Heart Association, is good. Or 1 hour, 4 times a week. The only bad workout is the one you didn't do. I run, I bicycle, I cycle, I do CrossFit sometimes. I started hurting my back on CrossFit. Is it good, bad? Yes, everything is good. Just choose something that you like. If you do not like being in the gym, it's not a good idea to be committed there and try, okay, I'll go to the gym every single day. If you like one thing or another, promote it, make it a priority and go for it. Be it swimming, running, walking, treadmill at home, anything. Just do it. And just a couple of facts. Marathon runners probably is not good for the heart, but joggers is something very good. 1 hour of jogging 4 times a week is perfectly fine. High intensity training is beneficial. Why? High intensity training pushes our heart to go very high, and that prepares our heart for problems, prepares our body for stressful situations. So when we have a problem, a medical problem, the body can deal with it in a better way. And sometimes I'm talking to patients and they tell me, my heart rate goes to 130 when I'm walking. Why? When I'm running? Is it good? Take your age, remove from it. Take 220, remove from it your age, and you'll know your maximum heart rate. So if you're, say, 40 years old, 220 minus 40, 180 is your maximum heart rate. So you'd want in your exercise to reach that. You want to do an exercise where you push your heart to the limit, where you tell it maybe once or twice a week, and then the other exercises will be more of lesser intensity. But you really need to push yourself a little bit more to arrive to your maximum heart rate. Not because it's fun, because this is the only way the heart gets the message to fabricate more oxygen receptors. This is the only way that tells our muscles prepare for the worst. And kids need much more exercise than we do. They need maybe 2 hours of activity every day, and that's fine for them. So don't worry about them. It's very healthy for them. Um, I will finish by talking about just a couple of words in general. These are the three pillars of health: the sleep, the diet, and the exercise. But one of the pillars that is very important is the psychological factor. And I know and I feel and I see every single day in my clinic patients who are suffering psychologically through all the challenges that we are facing, from the threat of the lockdown. Last year we were talking about the lockdown. Now we don't know if we're going to be in lockdown or not. We were lucky in Abu Dhabi that they opened the Expo 2020, because I think they removed the lockdown because of that. And hopefully it will never come back. And I'm against it, by the way. Work and stability of work, the economical situation, and with all the challenges that we're facing, life itself with how fast it is, gives us a lot of challenges. And honestly, we as doctors cannot change what's happening in the world. But I believe if we sleep well, if we eat well and exercise well, it's not going to solve your problems, but it's going to put you in the best possible state to deal with your problems. When you've slept enough, you can sort a problem better than when you haven't slept. And that's why I really would love to thank all the team behind this, because it promotes a general way of taking care of ourselves, taking care of our health, putting ourselves into an advantageous position to deal with what's happening in our lives, to deal with the challenges that our kids, our teenagers put on us, to deal with our jobs, to deal with our thoughts of being afraid from catching the disease or transmitting it, so on and so forth. A lot of ideas. I hope I have covered a bit of what you've expected me to cover, and I really hope that all of you are not asleep in deep sleep or rapid eye movement. I'll stop sharing the screen and go for questions in case you have one. Thank you.
Thank you. I love that last picture on your slide. That was excellent. Thank you, Dr. Hady. So much to think about there. So many things as I've just been listening to you talking about, particularly this importance of the Trinity, importance of sleep. We know it, don't we? We know we need to sleep. We know it's important, but it's so easy to forget, and it's so easy to put that down the list and to end up frazzled because we don't put the importance on sleep. I know sometimes as a mum, you get to a certain time of night and the children have gone to bed, and then it becomes like you time. It feels like you're snatching those few hours, but often that involves screens, doesn't it? And that involves connecting, and we steal our ability to sleep, I think, sometimes by only taking that time. I think it's really important that we reflect on that. We do have some questions, particularly about sleep. So some of them are just quite small questions, such as you mentioned about light, and I think this is really important as a parent for our children as well. Do you recommend pitch black bedrooms? Or night lights okay? Like you mentioned, obviously no blue light, but should it be curtains closed, blackout blinds, and no light at all?
Very, very, very important question. So here's the thing. We need to balance it, right? So studies have shown that the darker it is, the better the sleep is. But I know some kids, psychologically, they suffer if it's pitch dark, and they would love a small, uh, calm light. So balance it, yes, no problem, but certainly not a full-on light. So in case a kid is afraid of the dark, well, you don't want him to be terrified, because we are pushing him from one side to the other. So what I would put a small indirect light on the floor where it's not very visible. Sorry, it's not very visible to him, and he'll be able to sleep better. That's fine. That's fine. No problem.
That it is, and it is the balance. My little boy doesn't like the dark, so if it is dark, I know my
I
sleep will be
understand.
disturbed when he ends up trying to get in bed with with us. Another question about naps.
Oh,
So, like, we know we should sleep, for a certain amount of time, between 7 to 9 hours. Does that have to be at night? I know as a mum of children who didn't sleep when they were babies, they say to you, sleep when the children, when your baby sleeps,
yes,
sleep.
yes,
What's your advice on this? Like, should we as adults be napping, or is that stealing from our nighttime sleep?
yes. An interesting question. Excellent question. Um, the best sleep is night sleep, because it's darker, it's less sound, it's less. Now, suppose one night you were obliged to wake up for your kid, or you haven't slept well, or even if you slept well and you feel tired during the day, is it good to have a nap? Yes, but but some people would change into their pajamas, go into the bedroom, and just do 2 hours of a nap, and that's bad. So, what we say, we advise power naps, which is to be able to stay in superficial sleep. The moment we go into deep sleep in the afternoon, it really starts affecting our night sleep. So put yourself in a position on the sofa, on your desk, close your eyes, make it 10, 15 minutes, less than 30, and not in a very comfortable position, so that you can wake up a little bit after that. That is very healthy. That is good. No problem. But certainly not a 2 hour nap where we go into a full cycle of sleep. That is bad, actually. That affects our night sleep, affects our mood after the nap, and we do not advise this.
Okay, so less than 30 minutes. Don't get into your pajamas. Don't get into a comfortable position. But naps are okay. That's excellent. I'm glad to hear that.
Okay.
Go on.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, so a couple of other questions. Just about things to avoid in the evening. So, other than coffee, are there any foods that promote sleep, or foods that we should avoid? And as a second question to that, when you mention no vitamins at night, is that just supplements, or should we be giving our children, apples and oranges at night? Is that okay?
Yes, so apples and oranges are fine, because the amount of vitamins there is really low, and it will not affect our sleep. But when we take supplements that has a high concentration of vitamins, and some of the vitamins really um, wakes us up, vitamin C, vitamin D, and all supplements, we advise everybody to take them in the morning. Is there any food that we should avoid for kids? Avoid chocolate. Chocolate and sugars are goodness. We have our kid at school. The teacher told us, "Can you watch the amount of sugar in the diet of your son?" My son was a bit hyperactive one of those days, and the teacher just sent us this message, which is true. Sugars and chocolates, especially in kids, makes them more awake. There isn't actually a type of food that promotes sleep or not, but I would say for us adults, keep a window of 2 hours between whatever you eat and sleep. We don't want to sleep with a full stomach. It may lead to reflux. It may lead to uh, bad dreams. Bad dreams are associated with heavy dinners, by the way, in adults, and try to keep dinner away from food for at least 2 hours, just the time the stomach clears out the food. That is good.
Okay. Okay, a couple of other questions off the topic of sleep, but obviously still around parents' concerns. So one of them is about how we as parents don't transfer our own worries and anxieties onto our children. Do you have any advice for our parents about that?
Yeah. I'm a parent, and this is part of our anxiety. We have troubles, and sometimes it's good to share our responsibilities. When you feel a bit under pressure, be it at work or financially or whatever, sometimes it feels good to share these with others, because it kind of alleviates a bit of the responsibility. Honestly, kids are very sensitive to this. Kids are very sensitive. So you need to probably tell them, but not a lot. So that just be conscious that if you're worried this way and you transmit the same worry for kids, they multiply it by 10, because sometimes they don't understand, and for them it's the end of the world. Um, you really need to be careful with them, and share, but not everything. Put it in a nice envelope before sharing it, and set the limits. Set the limits. But as a parent, I suffer from this also. I say something to my kid, and then 3-4 days after, they come and question me on something trivial that I said, and then I know that whatever you say, for them, it's very important. So be careful about it.
And it's hard. I think sometimes we all need support networks to help us deal with things as adults, don't we?
Yes.
Okay. A couple more questions. One from a parent, basically saying, I have complete COVID fatigue, and I'm finding it really difficult to stay positive for the children. What coping mechanisms would you recommend?
I hope the positive is not the PCR positive. So a couple of words on the post-COVID syndrome. I've been seeing a lot of dry cough. The patients who had COVID, especially the Omicron one, they end up with 3 main symptoms. One is extreme fatigue, muscle pain that may last for a couple of months. Second, a dry cough that happens and that needs attention, and sometimes headache, also lack of focus. One thing I tell everyone is go counterintuitive. When we are tired, we usually would lie down and sleep, and then we enter into a vicious circle. I would say wait a week after you've finished your COVID and go counterintuitive. Do sports, break that cycle. And when you go into this, the body will regenerate. Once you do sports, the fatigue will be less. It's counterintuitive, but this is what needs to be done. You really need to take yours. And again, it's not only COVID. It's COVID, maybe loss of income. Some of the companies won't pay even the sick leave from the COVID. I know that. Some of the companies, some of the patients come and they want to be negative as fast as possible to go back to work, because the company would refuse to pay them the money that plus the fear of. So it's a ball of psychological, physical, mental, you name it. And the only way is to go counterintuitive. Do sports, eat healthy, and go for it. And there's no secret recipe other than this.
Okay, it's helpful. One from a parent who has actually really enjoyed having their children at home, and now feels that they've become so used to having them at home that now the parent is in a bit of a I don't have the words to put it, but they feel quite lonely.
Anxiety.
Yeah, and they feel lonely without them. How do you get your mojo back? How can you kickstart your motivation as an adult, as a human, as a parent? How do you do that?
In the group of parents here, my wife is the #1 advocate for patients going back to school. And every time they announce this, she's like, "No, why?" These patients are gems. When you tell me somebody who would prefer their kids to stay with them and they're emotionally attached, this is understandable. We are parents, we are protective, and especially sometimes we associate going out with disease, with unhealthy, but we really need to trust the process. Kids, they develop outside the house much more than they develop inside the house. For kids, interacting with other kids is the most important thing for their psyche, for their development, for their preparation for life. What is school if not preparing this young child to face the world of responsibilities that is full of responsibilities, problem solving, and challenges? And keeping them under our wings, usually we're not doing them a favor. It's a bit, sometimes it's a flood of emotion. Such a parent really does it from a high emotional attachment. But the number one priority is the health of the kid, the mental health of the kid, the physical, immune. So you really need to take it from that point and look at it from that point and send your kid away for them, for them. One of the Lebanese poets and philosophers say, your kids are not yours. Your kids are the kids and sons of life itself. So you need to let go of that. Gibran Khalil Gibran is the name of the philosopher. So really take it for the benefit of the kids to let them be, let them go. And the schools are doing amazing when it comes to COVID maintenance and how they manage it. So we should really be very happy and very sure that the kids are in good hands. So no problems at all.
I know it's hard. One of our parents has commented that the children get quite attached to home. Everyone becomes quite comfortable of being home. It's difficult then when the children are reluctant to go to school. But what you're saying as a parent, it's better that they are in school. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And just a quick question about that, about finding balance. You've said obviously our children need to have 2 hours exercise a day is ideal.
Yeah.
We are beginning to open up sports in schools. It's beginning to become more normal. One of our parents has said that, it's difficult because they're doing things after school every night to try and get all of that in. How do you find the balance between them doing too much, not being at home? What is a good balance for our children?
Children, they do much more sports than we think. I did once an exercise. I put my watch just to count my steps. On the weekend, I told my son Roy, take my watch and just be around the house, there in the garden, stuff like this. And the amount of steps he put in one before noon was, I would need 3 days to put them. They are already active. They do more than 20,000 steps every single day themselves, even doing nothing. Just they are always in the recess. Even there's no sports, they would run. So kids love that. Actually, the most important thing for us to do for our kids is try as much as possible to get them out of the screens. This is one of the biggest challenges we face. Screens are associated with a lot of the troubles that our kids have. The moment you remove the screen from them, he'd start moving, he'd start being active. And don't worry about the hours. They find them. Just limit their screen times. Give them option to be outside. They'll put in the steps and the effort. Should be easy.
That's great advice. And our final question today. From a parent whose child has had COVID but was asymptomatic, so
Yes.
no symptoms whatsoever,
Yes.
should they still get vaccinated? And if yes, after how much time from the positive test? There's a 10-year-old child.
Yes, I would still vaccinate them. Look, in a nutshell, our immunity is 2 parts, the humoral and the cellular. We're going to complicate it more than this. One produces antibodies, the other uses the cells to kill the virus. The vaccines will produce antibodies. The virus will help us here and here. When you combine both, you're well-rounded. Now, Omicron is not dangerous, but who knows if tomorrow we have a variant that is a bit dangerous. Vaccinate, wait for 2 months after the COVID finishes, and go for the vaccination. I promote it big time. I put my kids 9 and 7 on the vaccination list, and I will do it. They've had COVID. my family, my whole family got COVID. And I will still go for it, not because I'm afraid of Omicron. Actually, Omicron would be the best thing that ever happened to us, because it's a mild disease, and probably after Omicron, COVID will stop being a pandemic and will be like an endemic in some places, and this whole delirium will stop. But vaccinate them, because if we have uh, a severer or a more dangerous variant, they'll be there and they will be able to defend it.
Excellent. We are out of time. I'm sure we could talk for hours. I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing your time with us, your expertise with us, your positivity, Dr. Hady, and as you've just said, your hope for the future, that we're coming out of this, and that this
Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Have faith. Thank you a lot for having me.
So much.
It's always a pleasure to share my thoughts on
Thank you. And to our Cranleigh community, I hope you're all out there enjoying this, making sure you're drinking the good coffee, but definitely not only in the morning. But yeah, having a good time, and I hope that all your families are safe. And we will see you for our next Cranleigh Connects talk, where we'll be talking to Mr. Justin Thomas from Zayed University about the benefits of mindfulness. So I will see you in March. Dr. Hady, I look forward to working with you again. I know you're going to come and speak to some of our students about the importance of sleep and answering some of their questions. So I really look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.